All right, we are live. Guess what? The Rams offseason just got better. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, again, it got better. We're going to talk about Carson Wentz. We're going to talk about Troy Reeder, and we're going to talk about linebackers that the Rams need to fill their room because it's suddenly looking pretty sparse. I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView. And again, I got some new followers yesterday and some great clicks. I just want to say thank you for all that. But we're here to talk Ram football, and I'll let you know a little bit more about me and my stuff later. But here's the thing. How does Carson Wentz going from Indianapolis for some draft picks, how does that make the Rams better? How does that make their offseason better? It makes their offseason better because a quarterback is coming to the NFC that the Rams don't have any problems with, okay? Carson Wentz is not a threat to the Rams. The Rams have handled him. They handled him in Philly in 2020. They handled him last year in Indianapolis, both games on the road. So Carson Wentz does not put the fear of the Lord into Raheem Morris or the Rams defense. Second, he's going to Washington, and yes, Carson Wentz is an upgrade from Taylor Heinicke. And if Washington can work out some of its defensive issues, if they could re-sign Brandon Scherff, then Washington's really got something going on. And Carson Wentz is good enough to beat Dak Prescott. Now, I'm going to come across here as a bitter man, as a small man, but I hate the Cowboys. I hate them. It goes back to my youth. I was at the 37-7 NFC title game loss at the Coliseum after the 75 season. So, yeah, I hate the Cowboys. Can't stand the Cowboys. Despise the Cowboys. I'll maybe I'll root for the Cowboys when they play the Russians, but I'm not going to root for the Cowboys. And Carson Wentz is good enough with that Redskin defense, that offensive line. Maybe they need to pick up their running game a little bit. Carson Wentz is good enough to really upset the Cowboys' apple cart because I think the Cowboys missed their shot. I think the last couple of years they've missed their shot. Now they're having to pay guys. Now they're having to franchise tag guys. Now they're looking to let go of guys like Amari Cooper, and they got issues. And I think the Redskins, the Commanders, I call them the Washington Taxskins. Great. We're going to call them the Taxskins from now on. And the Taxskins can push the Cowboys. I really believe they can. And then they're also going to get some push because Philly's getting better. Philly snuck into the playoffs last year. And so these teams are slowly getting better in the NFC East. And I don't think it's going to be a walk for the Cowboys. And so Carson Wentz coming creates a little more heat in the NFC East, but it doesn't bring any pressure to the Rams. And voila, right? That's awesome, right? Why would the Colts want to get rid of a guy that threw for 3,500 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions? He completed only 62% of his passes, but then again, the year everyone was saying he should have won MVP in 2017, he only completed 60% of his passes. And he had 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in that year. But again, I'll say it again, completion percentage is overrated. It's the most overrated thing, just like interceptions are. Wentz threw 7 interceptions last year. 2 of them, I think, were against the Rams. Ramsey got one at the end, and Reeder got that weird one at the goal line. So he only threw 5 the rest of the year. And Matthew Stafford threw 17 and won a Super Bowl. So completion percentage needs to be more nuanced. What are they doing in the fourth quarter? What are they doing on 3rd and long? That's how you measure completion percentage. Also, interceptions, are they arm punts? Are they tips? What stage of the game do they happen? Did they happen in the red zone, trouble? Did they happen at midfield or on an arm punt and nothing was converted out of it? So that wasn't an issue. And I really don't think Wentz being traded had anything to do with him not being vaxxed. You don't trade a guy because he wasn't vaxxed, okay? I don't think it was. He wasn't traded, so he wasn't traded because of that. He wasn't traded because of the season. Wentz was traded because he lost to Jacksonville in the final game of the season. I think he lost to the Raiders before that and cost Indy the playoffs. That's it, right? We know we saw some PTDS, some post-traumatic Detroit syndrome in Matthew Stafford this last year, where he tried to keep plays alive that in Detroit he had to, but didn't have to here. And things settled down later. And I think Wentz has lived that way. because he took a beating in Philly, and his numbers were really good in Philly. Even his last year, which was his worst year, he was 16-15 in the touchdown interception ratio. But prior to that, he got them to the playoffs with another 27 touchdown, 7 interception performance. But Wentz does have a tendency to make the mistake at the worst moment. And so they got him cheap. And at the worst times, you can't lose to Jacksonville. You just can't. You can't lose to Jacksonville with that Colts roster when you're on the verge of the playoffs. Just can't happen. And so gone. Thank you. I'm so happy that the Ursays were upset. Frank Reich gave up on his project, and now he goes to Washington, where he'll be good enough to threaten the Cowboys, cause problem for the Cowboys, and not be a threat to the Rams. Bingo. We got something there. On the flip side, why would the Colts be interested in Jimmy G to replace Carson Wentz? Is that an upgrade, right? You want to bring in Jimmy G for a year, a season, a bridge. Someone's injured, fine. But the guy's injured all the time too. He's not an upgrade. He's not the guy. And so that surprises me. That's how weird and angry Indy was, I think, at Carson Wentz for missing the playoffs. With Denver and Washington off the market, back to the NFC West, Seattle looks like it may have its choice of quarterbacks in the draft with the number 9 overall pick. They got Denver's overall 9th overall in the Russell Wilson trade. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Carolina drafts 6. They still need a quarterback. Pittsburgh's at 20. They need a quarterback. And one of the recent mock drafts that I saw, a recent one, post-combine, still has Kenny Pickett going 6th overall to Carolina. And I thought that's wild. I think if the Seahawks have Malik Willis there at number 9, I think they take him. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? I know you got other issues, but really, are you going to go dance with Trubisky? Are you going to go dance with Teddy Bridgewater? Are you going to go dance with Andy Dalton? Are you insane? It's just, you're not going to do that. It's crazy. You wouldn't do that. So that's interesting. Also, last NFL news note, to answer loyal RamView follower James Burnham. Thank you for the comments and clicks yesterday, James. But yeah, I don't necessarily believe Denver is a Super Bowl lock. I was just posing the question. But then again, since he got to the Super Bowl last year, and I think they won 4 games in 2012, and they hadn't been there, so what 33 years? Or 33 years. So anybody can go to the Super Bowl, but when you look at it, they're hardly a lock, like some people are saying, to get out of the AFC West, to get by Buffalo, to get by all these other teams. Hardly a lock. And again, I know everyone's in love with Russell Wilson, but as a Ram fan, I didn't have a built-in fear of Russell Wilson. Yeah, he burned the Rams on some plays, but he didn't have sustained success against the Rams that made me think he was at some other level. And I think he's really good. I think he's a Hall of Famer. But this far into his career, I know he keeps himself in great shape. I don't know. I think the S is off his chest. He is mortal. And that brings us to a little more Ram-directed talk. But before we do that, I just want to say my name is Joe Tarosian, and I host RamView. I try to do it 5 days a week. You can follow me at joetarosian.com. That's where my website is. On Mondays, I post FanView, which is a general sports column, mostly football. And then on Fridays, I post From the Ram Cave, which I link these videos in to that. And it's just a more stuff on the Rams. And I post that every Friday. I'm also a writer. I published a few books. My book, Tangent Dreams, a high school football novel, came out a few years ago. It's done very well. And my most recent novel, this one's explicitly Christian, and it's called Sin Virus. It's a novel, a lot of action in it. If you're interested, take a look. These books are on, as long as my other ones are on Amazon, and you can find them there and learn more about them. I am a pastor. I pastor a small church in Burbank, and this is how I maintained my ministry through the years, is that I was a sports writer for 21 years at Mid-Valley Sports, and that's who I am. So wanted to give you a background there, and we go into the Rams. Troy Reeder, it broke this morning, was not tendered a contract by the Rams. Somewhere if they had tendered him a contract, it would have cost them $2.3 million, rocks against the salary cap. You just don't pay that much for a middle linebacker these days. And they're hardly middle linebackers. Yes, they line up in the middle, but these are coverage backers now. They are off the ball linebackers, as they're called. The days where, you had Willie Lanier, and and these Jack Lambert types, Leroy Jordan. You had these guys in the middle, Tommy Nobis, Sam Huff, where the middle linebacker position was really your defensive quarterback. Those days are so far gone, and now they're becoming even less and less of run stuffers. Usually, your inside linebacker was a run stuffer, and so the whole position has changed. And this is why Troy Reeder wasn't tenable. He wasn't bad against the run, but he was brutal in pass coverage. I think he ranked 74th out of 87 starting inside linebackers. But here's the thing: is the Rams came into the start of 2020 with Micah, Kaiser, and Kenny Young. Micah Kaiser didn't even make the team this year. He was released. I think he ended up on the practice squad briefly, and then ended up going to Denver. Kenny Young didn't even finish the season. Mid-season, he was traded to Denver. And so Ernest Jones finally got on the field, but Troy Reeder assumed most of the responsibilities. And Troy Reeder was yeoman. I mean, it was all blue collar. He started 10 games for the Rams, but you saw, everyone saw, for an undrafted free agent, the Rams got a lot of clicks out of Troy Reeder, and his hard work paid off with the ring. So really happy for him. But is any other team in the NFL going to give him 2.4 anywhere? I mean, seriously, he's a glorified special teamer. Now, that's the thing, though, is that because that's what he is and that's what the league will assess him as, could he return? Yeah, he could return. If he wants to come, whatever the Rams want to pay him, but, maybe the dude deserves a raise up to the million bracket because he was only making about 560, 570. He was an undrafted free agent out of Delaware. But he's just not, you're not going to spend that. And no team is. This is why Bobby Wagner was released in Seattle, is that no team is going to spend that kind of money on an inside linebacker when they can be found everywhere. Last year, among Creed Humphrey fans in center, there was a lot of talk about the Rams wanting an off-ball coverage linebacker. And it was Jabril Cox was the one I remember looking at and everyone was talking about, caught a lot of buzz out of LSU. He didn't end up going till after the first 100 were taken. And when the Rams drafted Ernest Jones, Jabril Cox was still on the board. And so one of the things that people have found is you can get by without spending a lot for an inside linebacker because he doesn't need to do both necessarily. Some would think that Bobby Wagner would be a perfect fit for the Rams, and I think he would. Again, you just don't want to pay him any money, and I wouldn't want to pay him any money. But it is interesting thought that he wouldn't go to a team in the division. Well, of course he would. He's a free agent. He can go to a team inside the NFC West, right? He can go to the Cardinals. He can go to Frisco. He can go to those places. And it's not unprecedented. I'm really going to turn back the clock here. Speaking of a middle linebacker, is the Rams had a middle linebacker that played with them for 11 seasons and then ended up playing his final 4 seasons in San Francisco and won 2 Super Bowls. His name is Jack Reynolds. He was a first-round pick in 1970, played 11 years for the Rams, made 2 Pro Bowls, but the Pro Bowls are a joke. This dude's a Hall of Famer. And Jack Reynolds ended up leaving the Rams after the 1980 season, which meant he was on Super Bowl 14 team. And he ended up going to Frisco, won a title in 81 and won a title again in 84. And Jack Reynolds probably is a Hall of Famer, and he really should be. But he left the Rams within the division and went up to San Francisco because he was looking for success. He probably read the writing on the wall with Georgia and said, I'm getting out of here. And that's where he ended up. So it's not unthinkable just because the Rams are in the same division. And again, Wagner's a free agent. Just because the Rams are in the same division that he wouldn't think here. Again, you just have to think about how much you want to pay him. So with Reeder gone, these are the off-ball linebackers still on the roster for the Rams. 4 of them. 4 of them. One didn't play any snaps last year. He was strictly a special teamer. That's Jake Gervais, an undrafted free agent in 2019. He's a special teamer. The other one is Christian Roseboom, who the Rams released, actually went someplace else, came back. He only played 2 snaps on defense last year in the box, and he's a special teamer, and that's it. Trayvon Howard is still on the roster. He played 214 snaps. I've been a Trayvon Howard fan. If you've been following me just a little bit, I think he deserves more time. He's a converted safety. The Rams have had him for a few years, but he's a free agent now. And he played about 200 snaps last year, and he obviously got the interception that secured the NFC title game, but it's going to be interesting if what he might get on the market and if he doesn't get anything about the Rams bringing him back. So basically, the only two that have been on the field that are still property of the Rams, belong to the Rams, are Rosenboom, 2 snaps, and Ernest Jones. Now, Ernest Jones, the Rams found him in the 3rd round. So if you think about it, the Rams won a Super Bowl with Troy Reeder and found Ernest Jones in the 3rd round. They're not going to cough up a lot of coin for Bobby Wagner. They're just not, because you could find these guys. When you look at the mock drafts and everything that are taking place, those inside linebackers aren't going too high. There is one, and I'll get to that list here in a second, that is projected top 10. Another one's projected 1st round, but the majority of them are day 2 selections, 2nd and 3rd round, and going on from there, and such. So you got to wonder what the Rams are going to do. Who's available on the free agent market? Anthony Hitchens, Donta Hightower, Jordan Hicks just released by the Cardinals, Kyle Van Noy just released by the Patriots again. You know, a couple years ago, he left the Patriots, went to the Dolphins. Dolphins released him, went back to the Patriots. Patriots released him, and now he's a free agent again. And some of these guys were making 8-9 rocks a year. You're just not going to pay that kind of money for that position. So yeah, I don't expect, if there's not something special that happens with Bobby Wagner, I wouldn't expect the Rams to bring in any high-profile free agent to play the cover backer or to join Ernest Jones. And the Rams feel comfortable with Ernest Jones, obviously, by the minutes he played in the Super Bowl, but they do need some depth. And the one name that's popped up on draft boards, it's the only one that's really popped up with the Rams that I've seen, because I've looked all around at all the mock drafts, what all the experts are projecting. I haven't done any mock draft or anything. But the one that's projected is Micah McFadden out of Indiana. He's projected to go as low as the 3rd day, maybe 5th, 6th round. He's the 15th ranked linebacker overall by Pro Football Focus. And he might be somebody for a name to keep an eye on. But the top names like Devin Lloyd out of Utah, he's a top 10 projection. Nakobe Dean out of Georgia. Of course, anything out of Georgia these days is special, right? He's projected to go late in the 1st round. And then you got guys from Alabama, Christian Harris, Nebraska, JoJo Doman, Cincinnati, Darian Beavers, Chad Muma, Wyoming, Damon Clark, LSU, Brian Asamoah at Oklahoma, Channing Tindall, Georgia, and Leon Chenell at Wisconsin. And so expect the Rams not to go 3rd or 4th round for an off-ball linebacker. I don't know who they'd take if they actually did end up signing Wagner, but that linebacker room belongs to Ernest Jones. And if it's not Wagner, I kind of hope they re-sign Trayvon Howard. But if they re-sign Trayvon Howard, I would expect really for them to go find another linebacker. And they probably should anyway late, but they're not going to go spend any quality picks 3rd, 4th, and even 5th, I don't think, on a linebacker. That's just my guess right now. But, of course, everything changes going forward. We're at the 18-minute mark, and we're going to be breaking down more and more the different positions and who's available through free agency and who fits the Rams' needs and who's looking good when it comes to maybe the draft board. Again, like I said, don't freak out about the inside linebacker position. We want a title with a 3rd round choice and Troy Reeder. Okay, so it would be awesome to have Bobby Wagner. But again, Bobby Wagner is not the Bobby Wagner of a few years ago. He's still very good, and he might be even better at a good price chasing a ring, but don't get all hung up on it. Get more hung up on getting those contracts rewritten for Donald and restructured for Donald and Chad and Matthew Stafford, and get Von Miller back in the house, get OBJ back in the house. And then in terms of Tutu Atwell, be thinking of Tutu Atwell and maybe Van Jefferson has maybe been pieces that the Rams might be willing to deal, because there's going to be a lot of depth in that wide receiver room, and they've got some talent. And if there's something the Rams want, the corner position is something, even though I kind of like it, I think they're going to need to look at the corner spot, especially after Darius Williams leaves, and then always depth at safety, because free agency's coming up again. Guess what? Nick Scott's a free agent next year. Taylor Rapp's a free agent next year. And so it'll be really interesting to see what the Rams do in the draft. And going forward, I think that's it. That's it for today. And unless there was another trade when I was broadcasting, But I want to say thank you so much. I'm Joe Terosian. Please, thank you for the subscribes. Thank you for the likes. And keep us going forward as we continue to talk Rams all the way through. Before the draft, during the draft, after the draft, into the OTAs. We'll continue to talk Rams all year, daily, as best we can. All right, folks, thank you so much for clicking on. Check out my books on Amazon, joeterosian.com, FanView, Ram Cave, and we'll talk to you soon. God bless.